started, and then we'll get started. So, hey, there's Dave Houts. What's up, Dave? Dave's going to keep it quiet. So, anyways, welcome. People that don't know me, I'm Paul Bra. So, I kind of do our Facebook Petaluma Running Club website, if you call it, our Facebook page. But I was telling Bryan and Solomon, we were on here about 10 minutes ago, and I was super excited because I'm following these guys in the Moab 240, and they're both from Petaluma, and I'm tracking them, and they're running completely different races, which I'll get into a little bit different. You could tell they're sleeping at different times, yet they keep passing each other, going on, and then they finish 13 minutes apart, which is crazy. Wow. So, and I know Solomon, the young guy, he probably did that on purpose, said there's no way this old guy's beating me. So,
yeah.
So a little bit about, again, we're recording this so people that don't know, the Moab 240 is a 240-mile race in Moab, which if anybody has never been to Moab, you got to get there. It's an incredible place. Anywhere in Utah is an incredible place. But Moab itself, we're talking, it's at a higher elevation. I think Moab itself is at 5,000 about, Bryan and Solomon?
About that, yeah.
About right, yeah. Yeah, these guys are climbing. They went up to the LaSalle Mountains, which I think is 10,000 feet plus. And I think there's around 30,000 feet total climbing and descending, which, over 4.5 days is just crazy. But anyway, so just a little bit about these guys right away is Solomon, we'll start with him. He's a young guy, he's 31. He's from Petaluma. Well, he moved to Petaluma when he got to high school. They went to Casa Grande High School. He did run track and cross country there. We just talked. He wasn't a top runner. He just didn't run cross country till your senior year, right, Solomon? Yep. So, but Solomon's a little crazier, even though they're both crazy. Solomon, he's finished 8, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, he's finished 8 100s so far before the Moab 240. In 2019, he finished 6 100s. And for his 30th birthday, he ran on back-to-back weekends. He ran 100-mile races and finished them to celebrate his 30th birthday, which personally, and you guys can tell me after, that might be harder than finishing the 240.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
But then to top that off, and I was checking his ultra website results, a month after that, he ran another 100-miler. So it's just crazy. Bryan has 2 100-mile finishes, and he has a Tahoe Rim Trail 200-miler. Well, was that 214?
205, yeah.
205, yeah, miler under his belt. And later on, I want to ask you about the difference of the two, and if there was a big difference, and kind of let us know your thoughts on that. But real excited to have you on. Again, they finished 13 minutes apart. I think I wrote down here 102 hours and change. Basically, that's 4 days and 6 hours, finishing 240 miles in some great, amazing territories. I did check the weather. Scott, who's on here, Scott Weaver, him and I went out there with a group of runners the year before at the exact same time the race was going on, and he was in the 20s in the morning. Every morning there, it was really cold.
Yeah.
I think that this year he didn't quite get those temperatures at night. Is that correct?
We were great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice.
It really wasn't bad. It was like a 50-degree swing day and night, but still, compared to what it could have been,
Right. So to let everybody know what I'm going to do here is I've got we're going to go through with their training, the race, nutrition I've got some topics we're going to go through, and then afterwards we'll open up to some questions if you guys have any for them, and we'll get going. If you have questions too, you could text me on here too, and I could touch them up later. But the first thing I want to ask both of you guys, and I want to start with Solomon, is post-race. I mean, I know I have one long race to my credit, and I drop the mic. I'm like, I'm done. And you guys keep doing it over and over again. So I know you're on a high from this race. So tell me about the high, your emotions, and how your recovery is going. And then Bryan, I'll ask you the same thing after.
Well, after the race, I felt great, honestly. I think the last day was the best, I think, for me, just because okay, it's done, and I feel a lot of energy actually still. And so after the race, I actually went for a hike the next day. And then small hike, not so much, just a walk and so forth. And then And then I kind of progressively went for a jog and bowling day, and then which hurts a little bit. I noticed that. And but then third day it felt a little bit better after I shook out a little bit. As far as recovery, it's been like smooth sail. It feels like just ran in the 100-mile twice back to back. Honestly, I feel like the body is, I don't know, haven't really ran much this whole year, so it's kind of like, well, trying to get back to the ultra marathon stage, and I think muscle memory is like my body is like, okay, well, a lot of quick recovery, probably because I didn't beat my body up this year. So yeah, food, eats a lot of food.
Yeah, good. And what Solomon's not telling you is last week he went out, for whatever reason, he ran a 5K, which was only 3 miles, but he ran 3 miles. All the miles were under 6-minute miles. So that's how his recovery is going. So crazy. And then Bryan, how's your high going?
My high is still there. I'm basking in the post ultra glow, and yeah, I mean, it feels good. Always the first couple days coming back is hard. I don't know if Saul or anybody else who does super long distances, it's kind of weird. You get into that little culture and that little tribe out there, and you're out in the woods, and when you come back to your normal life, you're like, wait a sec, so it takes me a little bit of time getting used to being back home. But yeah, just really, this is the first time I've really gone like pretty deep into recovery. I don't have anything on the schedule till like February or something. So I get a good month of just really letting things recover before I start building up again. But other than that, yeah, probably the best part of the race is usually, well, for me this time, and it was in Tahoe, was the second half. And that's mostly because I get more adapted. I'm not trying to shove calories in. I've kind of figured out that my body can do what it can do, maybe not at the highest performance because I can't eat as much or whatever, but I get used to it. And then it becomes kind of a celebration the last day and a half for sure.
Awesome. That's great, you guys. So we'll dive right into training. And again, I'm gonna emphasize this over and over again, but what these guys did training wise during the race was the complete opposite. So it's crazy. It's a 31-year-old and a 54-year-old. And I think that has a lot to do with it. But training wise, I'm going to go to you first, Bryan, because I know it sounds like you did it right. So I know you,
right.
I know you coach ultra runners, and I've coached some people in like marathon distances.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I always tell them is the hardest part is the commitment to the training. You got to get your miles in. And if you stay healthy and you get through those months, is the race itself is a victory lap for all your training. So I know I followed you on Strava, and I saw some amazing runs. A couple things I would like you to touch on is I know you run by heart rate a lot in zones and heart rate. I'm not that person at all. I just go if I can't breathe, and then I know I'm going too fast, my heart rate's too high, and then I slow down. So that's me. But I know you do heart rate training. I know back-to-back runs are a big thing. And when I was training for my ultras, that was also a big thing for me. So maybe explain to people that don't know what back-to-back runs are. And also, I'm giving you a lot on your plate right now, but I know you had a coach too, an elite coach who a lot of people might know and follow. Whereas before we get back to Solomon, I know his miles were a lot lower than you. He didn't know if he was going to race or not because of COVID, and he didn't have a coach. So Bryan, take it away on your training and try to touch on some of those things.
Yeah, I went ahead and started getting coached beginning of this last year, so 2020. It's the only good thing in 2020, right? So I actually, and it's really because I really like to run. I run a ton, so I thought I might want to learn how someone else who's a pro does it. Even though I know how to do it and I teach other people how to do it, I want to know what he would do with me. So I really bit it off and said, yeah, just take me and I'll do whatever you say. So yeah, the training itself, I just think as the older we get, we're more prone to injury, we're more prone to long recovery, really hurting ourselves, that the training just becomes so essential. At Saul's age, if you have the experience, it might really be bad for it. I don't know if it's bad for you if you don't train, but I know at my age I wouldn't make it. So yeah, keep going with the questions.
Tell us a little about your heart rate training and your back-to-back runs.
Yeah, so I actually decided to go with Avery Collins, my coach, and heart rate wise, it's just one of those things. You don't want people to get hung up on heart rate because it can be really hard, but as long as you can get people to be conscious of keeping their heart rate low for a majority of their runs, I think it's really important. You can read about how going slow can get you faster. And of course, it makes sense with the long stuff, right? As long as we can keep some energy, we might be able to use it when it's really essential. So heart rate is a tough thing to go about, but I think it's really worth it. And bit by bit, I'm not fighting it. And I think a lot of people just go by effort percentage too. I think it's all fine. I think the whole idea is to not burn ourselves out in the first 20 miles. And then like back-to-backs are really important. I used to do like a 30 or 35 mile run and call it. If I need those miles now, I'll do a 25 and a 10. I don't know why. I'm just following directions, really. I think that's one of the things I've learned in life. If I want to get better at something, find somebody who's better than me and follow directions. So, and that's what I try and provide my runners. I have more than them, and I kind of pass it on from Avery to them.
Right. And then to finish up with your training, do you feel like you nailed it, or is there something you would have done different?
Well, yeah, I mean, nutrition's always the hard part, right? You just never know on race day, but at least I've had enough problems with it that I kind of knew what to do. But yeah, so that's pretty much how I feel about it. Like the nutrition part, it fell apart on the first day. I know you were going to ask a question about success. And that was really when everything fell apart that first day. After getting through that, I was able to continue on without a lot of issues with my stomach.
Good. And Solomon, talk about your training real quick and your thought process going in. And I know it's different than Bryan's, and you didn't have a coach, and which is not, again, that's, I know I research a lot of these ultra races, and I think some of the guys on here, it might be 50-50 people that have coaches and don't have coaches. Solomon, tell us a little about your training and what was your plan and how it executed, if it went as planned.
Sure. Well, I mean, as you mentioned, it's like I wasn't quite sure whether this race was going to really happen until probably a month and a half before the race. Like, oh, it's really going to happen, I guess. So I guess I need to start training for it. But before then, I was probably doing a lot of like trail running and hiking on the weekends. That's pretty much what I've been doing. My work, I travel a lot, and so I get to be in some of the coolest places where everyone is like locked down at home. I was like in the national forest, really close to probably Sequoia National Forest and Sierra National Forest for a period of times this year, and also in Inyo National Forest. So I was kind of running in some of the area where you have high altitude. So for me, it was just more like spending the weekends in high elevations, doing a lot of just uphills and mountains. Every weekend I just go summit somewhere 10,000 feet or higher just for fun. And that's my training.
Right.
Then leading to the race, I literally, I was actually back to South Cal for work. And so I was joining other running groups locally that they start having community runs, which actually helps me to actually getting more consistent running, which is more like somewhere between 5 to 10 miles doing the community run. But I try to put in efforts in there. On Sunday, I joined some other trail runners in the area and do some trail running that's more closest to 13 to 15 miles on the weekends. And oftentimes I just make the efforts. Like my motto for running is, training is always quality over quantity. So I always about intensity. If I put in the intensity and I let my body recover, is better than just like doing some easy runs and then kind of maintaining the same plateau for me. It's just like pushing it and then let my body break down my muscles and then rebuild it and then make it stronger. So that's how I kind of think about it.
I love
And
that. Yeah.
so
Good.
yeah.
And then really quick, why don't you tell everybody with your job what you do real quick that you get to run in all these great places up in the mountains.
What's the deal?
Yeah, I do. So I am a contractor with the utility company right now down in SoCal with SoCal Edison's, and I do hazard tree risk assessments. So I look at trees around the power line and check and see if they're gonna fall on the power lines. That's itself actually somewhat give me some kind of training because I spend times outdoor hiking or walking or just standing outside, spending time on my feet during the day. However, since I'm also a supervisor, I also spend a lot of time in front of the computer. So it doesn't give me as much training as I wish I would have from previously. But yeah, so that's bring me to where trees are. And in SoCal, where there's trees usually are in the mountains in near the forest. So that can give me a chance to go to the trails as well.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Next thing I had was about the race itself, getting to that starting line. And I know, again, people maybe, again, we're going to record this so people might not know about crews, having a crew, which is usually family, friends, fellow runners, being at pit stops, moving you along. I know my experience is that I had lots of family and friends at my pit stops and like at the aid stations, and I couldn't, that pulled me along. I couldn't wait to see them. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to see these people at the pit stops. Bryan, I know you had some fellow runners, your coaches, that really, helped you a lot. Solomon, you didn't have anybody. So tell me about, again, the race itself going in. For one, what was your goal? Which I know your goal was to finish, obviously, but tell me about the race going in, your thoughts as you're coming to that starting line, having a crew, how much that helped you versus were you concerned about not having a crew? So Solomon, why don't you start with this one about your mindset at the start, and then because I know you I think you sent something out of, or maybe I talked to you before or text that you want to know if anybody was down there pacing or crewing, and then of course if I could have been, I would have been down there. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I contemplate about it because like I never did a 200. So this is the longest distance since I've only done like 100. So going in there, I was like, okay, I would love to have a pacer, especially I know I have to go several nights out there potentially. And so I think one of the hardest things with ultra running is really not so much the distance running, but it's staying awake at night or trying to navigate in the dark when you are tired and you can get delirious or hallucinate if you don't have enough rest. And so that was really the main concern for me. Is more like a safety runner. We call them pacer, actually safety runners. Just like, they're not really pacing you too much as supposed to really navigate the route for you so that you don't like go off the trail and then go an extra several miles that you wouldn't otherwise have gone, got lost by yourself. So that's kind of one of the things that I was kind of mostly concerned about. That's why I posted on social media. It's like, hey, anyone want to pace if they want to? But in the end, I decided, you know what? I did have one person ask me, it's like, hey, do you really want to pace? I can potentially do it, but I kind of changed my mind last minute. It's like, you know what? I just want to do solo because like I never have a pacer, never have a crew doing all these ultra before. So having honestly have a pacer and a crew, trying to figure out the logistics, gonna give me a headache during the race. It's like, okay, how do I coordinate how to make sure that that person show up at the aid station? Because I have heard a lot of horror story from other runners on the trail saying it's like the crew or pacer never show up. It mess up their whole psychologically during the race. So for me, it's like, since I have never done it, should I try it now? Maybe not so much.
Yeah.
If you have not followed me on social media, I have a nickname, Ultra Solo Monster, Camp with Solomon, and got Solo Monster from high school in cross country team. So it's like, okay, well, I have the first part solo, may as well just go solo on my races anyway. So that's kind of like changing my mindset, and I just go in just like ready for it and just go for it, honestly, and enjoy it. So.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. Solomon, I mean, I think, I see a couple of people on here that have done some pretty fabulous, amazing, epic runs. And I think they'd all tell you to do that, no crew, no pacer, 240 miles is just absolutely phenomenal. So hats off to you, man. So Bryan, race going in, starting line.
Starting line.
You got your crew. Just tell us kind of, and the next thing we're going to jump into after this too, is this nutrition during the race and sleep. Okay. So just tell us your thoughts going in, your goals, knowing that. Tell us about your crew, and just go shoot away. Yeah.
Well, my crew chief joined us tonight, Michael Lee, there in the Hollywood Squares.
Yeah.
So he's once you get him set up, you don't have to think about anything. So once again, I would rather have almost no crew or no pacers, definitely for 100 if they're not experienced. Mm-hmm. If for a 200, I don't even care. I don't even care as much. I just need somebody to walk with me at some of those nights. Right. But it was really, really good this year. The crew and the pacers made it. I felt like I had too many pacers because I like a lot of alone time out there. But having never done the course, and also the way I was running this, I just don't know if I could have done it without my guys. So, hats off to all of them. Michael made it happen. It's like definitely a group effort, this one. Tahoe was a little easier for me just because I know the terrain. Of course, there's more climb, but that's actually something we get used to. Sometimes the flats really bother us. But so, yeah, the crew was excellent. Michael had foot baths for me, wet towels, whether warm or cold, depending on what was outside, hot food. I have my camper van. So it was the first time I had a camper van at our Ultra. So I got to sleep in there, hour and a half sleeps, stuff like that. So, it was great.
Awesome. And then I'll start with you, Bryan, on nutrition. What did people want to know what you ate during the race? Calorie wise, I know it's a whole body chemistry thing that's going to keep you going. What'd you eat? Is it what you planned to eat? Did things go as planned? And did you have any stomach issues during the race?
No and yes. So nothing ever, something always goes wrong, right? And nutrition's usually, I don't know, maybe 80% of the people out there, if something goes wrong, that's what it is. And it's learning to work through it. So I went out pretty much loaded on my own mixes that I make with brown rice and fruit and stuff like that. And then I bring spring energy. I brought, trail mixes, all that kind of stuff. And we try to keep the variety going. I train on pretty much 200 calories per hour, but I found I cannot race that way. I just can't. Once I get into that more fat adaptive, when I'm consuming maybe fewer calories, I should be consuming more, but I'm starting to burn fat. In other words, I feel okay. I don't feel hungry. I'm not performing my best, but at least I feel like I can perform at that point. So yeah, there was definitely an issue there, and it may have been the exposure to just that slight elevation, no trees, that kind of thing can kind of wear on you, whether it's really what you're eating or whether it's heat or what it is. So my next training block will be a lot on that. I'll be working with a new kind of liquid nutrients by Infinite, like Infinity, and it's a way to get good calories in through liquid. So I'm going to give that a try. My coach has used it for up to like 20 miles, so we'll see. So that's part of my next training block, is just working on that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Solomon, nutrition, what'd you eat?
Oh, I pretty much rely on the aid station. But I guess before I start, like when I first start, when I start the race, I have 2 croissants holding in my hand at the start line, and like just like kind of like a croissants, and I'm just like running with it for the first 15 miles. And one of them kind of fall down. It's kind of melted in my hand, so I just have to throw it away. It's kind of too gross to eat. But so I have a kind of like a different I stick with real food when I do nutrition for ultra. And actually, since I started ultra running, I pretty much steer away from any gel packs, any blocks, chill stuff, whatnot. And I just can't go straight with real food. So I usually just rely on the aid station. I go for the fruits. Those are always amazing. I mean, at the aid station, they have the best aid station, honestly, for me.
That is good idea.
Like, I mean, we have burger, we have quesadilla, we have breakfast burrito, I have like hot dogs. It's amazing. It's a buffet for me. So I just always like take my time at the aid station.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people, if you look at my race and look at the time, I spend my time at the aid station. Like I would spend 20 minutes to an hour at the aid station, talking to people, just eating, and then go. I try to hydrate myself that way too. So like I try to get enough hydrations while I'm at the aid station, and then try not to drink too much during the run, but like kind of rehydrate myself during the aid station. I kind of rely on it a lot. I do have like the granola bar, nature, with me. That's because that's what I have a box in my truck. So previously, before I travel, it's like, okay, I have a bunch of these. I don't know what I'm gonna get at the aid station when I'm just gonna have these as backup. I also have like fruit snacks, just candies,
Yeah.
just to quick sugar. But that's pretty much what I ate. A lot of soup at night, and I love those. And honestly, one of the things that I do with the nutrition, especially with the 200, I found it works really well for me is eat before I sleep, take the nap. Like it's like we're gonna sleep anyway during this long race. So I just like eat and then fill up my tummy, and then I go take a 2 hours nap and then wake up, eat a little bit more, and then go. And I feel like I was able to absorb more calories that way than just like kind of on the go and kind of snacking the whole time. So.
And no stomach issues for you at all during the race?
I didn't, no, I did not have any. I think the first day I felt a little overnutrition. I can feel it only because I was feeling slightly ready to throw up at one point, but just the urge of it, but not a whole lot. Just feeling like when I'm trying to eat, it's like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit too full, even though my stomach growling. But overall, it's been fine. And after the first day, I just learned that I'm not going to eat anything 5 miles after the aid station. Just go for it. If I feel hungry, it's okay because I feel that way when I do my training run anyway at times. And your body is fine even if it's growling, as long as you know that you ate.
Right.
Sometimes just reacting to the stomach acid, whatnot, so you feel hungry, but it's just more like a mental thought than really physically needing any food. So
I definitely bookmark that because that's always how I feel. I try to do all the calories, but really that aid station, and that's great before you went to bed. I was usually too tired, but that is such a great thing. So anybody venturing forth, you know, if you don't feel like eating, just eat a lot at the aid station and sit down. I mean, I guess you can eat anywhere, but you just really have to sit down a while, you know, I think for most people. They're like, yeah, I didn't wait long enough and they're puking, you know, but that's, you know, it seems like there's just figuring it out. You know, I just love being out in the woods. So throwing up is part of it sometimes.
That's good, you guys. And then, and you both touched on a little bit, but sleep, because obviously, you know, this is a 4+ day for both of you guys out there. You know, you have to sleep. Is you know, again, completely different. Bryan had his camper van. He slept there. Solomon, you know, we chatted before. You slept. They had sleep stations, I guess. And tell us about that. I'll start with you. Tell us about the sleep stations. If they had cots, and then did you sleep at all on the trails at all? I'd like to know what was your longest sleep and what was your shortest sleep. So
sure.
Go ahead.
In total, I slept about 9.5 hours during the race. I slept 2 hours first night, and then 2.5 the second, 3 hours the third night. And I tried to skip my last night, but didn't happen. So I just ended up sleeping another 2 hours when it's near the morning, just because. And fourth night is the night where I had to do some trail nap because like I could not stay awake when I was trying to push it through, and I was just too tired, and I had to crash on the side of the trail a couple of times, but realized that it was kind of cold at night, and I didn't really have enough clothing to stay warm, so I just had to keep pushing it so that I can get to the next aid station and sleep. But as far as like sleep station goes, they have the tent, they have cots, as you mentioned. We are required to bring our own sleeping bags because they don't have blankets or anything. So I just have my sleeping bags. I have two of them just in case it gets really cold at night. But actually, second night I was overheating in my sleeping bag, which woke me up luckily because like they didn't. I know some races they will have alarm clock allows you to just set alarm timers so that it will set it. They don't have that. They can't expect you to do it, and I just crashed. I didn't really set alarm clock, so my body automatically woke up like within 2 to 3 hours. So which is thank God. I was like crossing my finger that I will wake up, but since I was in the moments of racing, I guess my body automatically woke up as soon as it's ready. So I just like woke up and grabbed some food and repack and then head back out again. So yeah, one night I did sleep on the grass because they are out of cots inside the tent, and because of COVID, they do want to limit the amount of people inside the tent. So it was out. They just say, hey, you can just maybe find somewhere kind of around the bush on the grass where you can just sleep in your sleeping bag. So yeah.
Good. Bryan, how about you?
Yeah, well, that first day I was having a hard time with nutrition, so I was behind my schedule probably about 2 hours after I finally said, okay, forget about it. Let's just wait till sunset. And there seems to be, at least that I notice, maybe it's all psychosomatic since this person told me, but there's like this hormonal change that happens around sunset and sunrise. So partially, you kind of can get a reset a lot of times. So I waited till then, took off. And so what this has to do with sleep is that I saw this chinchilla and it kept following my light. It was like the only cool looking furry beast I saw the whole time, but it's this little chinchilla, right? And they're pretty psychedelic little creatures. So it's following my light, and it didn't talk to me or anything, but I heard it say in my head, dude, sleep during the day when it's hot. And I was like, oh, thanks, dude. And so, the next day I was like, hey, if I lie down, I'm lying down during the day. But yeah, it became a bunch of about hour and a half. I think, Michael, there was a 3 hour, or maybe even near a 4 hour in there. Wow. But for the most part, a bunch of hour and a half to 2 hour naps.
Yeah, good. And then both you guys, question, did you set an alarm or did you just wake up after those couple hours?
Alarm. There's no way.
Oh, I'm just curious. Yeah.
They're like poking at me.
Oh, are they? Okay.
No, I was his alarm.
Yeah, he's my brain during the whole thing. I'm gone,
Solomon, what about you? Did your body just told you?
My body just told me to wake up, honestly. Okay. I did not set an alarm. I was hoping they would have someone wake me up, but I guess I'm very lucky because like I was gonna go for the whole 5 hours. They said that you're allowed to sleep 5 hours at a sleep station if you want to.
Okay.
And so, but there's no one monitoring it, so I just crashed, and then my body is like itching to keep going. So I just woke up and I just keep going.
Crazy. 9.5 hours sleep in a 4 day, 6 hour race. That's phenomenal. So both you guys, cheers to that. So the next thing is that, again, and I don't know who I started with before, either one of you guys can jump on this, but your mindset during the race, because I know with any ultra race, any ultra distance, you have multiple highs and lows. Like, what the fuck am I doing out here? I can't finish this. What was I thinking? To like, you're floating. You're like, man, I feel great. So tell me about I'm guessing you both had highs and lows, but tell me about, I'd like to hear, first of all, your lowest point in the race, miles where you were at, and what you did to get out of that. What happened that all of a sudden you're moving along and you're feeling great? And then your highs? Obviously, the finish was a high, but anything during the race that you can remember that was a real high from you. Either one of you guys can take it.
Yeah, I'd say that overnight after I gotten kind of sick and I said, okay, just take care of yourself was that was a big thing. But then going overnight was a high in the sense that I felt good and I was going pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I had to make up time. So that felt really good. But in general, the lows and the highs for me, they kind of become one. They're all kind of the same thing in a lot of ways. I might not feel great, but I know that the next moment, you just got to wait 5 minutes. It's the constant mood swings out there. But I do think that there's the pleasure and the pain, of course. There's that feeling of just working, like if you're climbing a rock and you're just, it's that feeling of force with nature that's so much fun. So that kind of level of pain, the like non-nausea, more the physical, just that can feel really good. So yeah, and then the high of the highs, probably day 4 when I become high priest of the desert by then. And Michael was shuffling me towards the finish line and how he was taking pictures and Solomon had passed by. It was like this big, like just fun kind of, it was a great day, wasn't it, Saul? That was a great day.
Last day was awesome. It was
awesome. That's what I have. Highs and lows were all over the place. I think my lowest of the low was that day. Coming out of that was a good high. And then just just the general high low constant just trudging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Solomon?
Yeah, so I guess my low, I don't have a lot of low, but I guess for me, probably 4th night I was hoping to just go for it and finish the race before sunrise the next day, but then it's just like, the sleep deficits just hits me and I just like couldn't keep going. I was just going so slow and my feet hurt still. I got blisters that I wasn't quite aware of. I know that something for me. It's just, but yeah, so that was kind of low for me just because I'm like, I want to finish this and I figure I could have go faster at some point just to hit certain times, but like that's like slow me down the 4th night sections. So even though it's supposed to be downhill and flat,
yeah,
I was going pretty slow on that. So that was kind of my low for the most part. But yeah, I don't think there's other low high wise. There's definitely a lot of high. First day was really pretty. I think the most scenic will be the first day and the last day of the race, in my opinion, is like the most gorgeous. You see the Colorado River and you see all the mesa and all the cliffs and canyons over there. Second day, third day is kind of mellow. 4th day is kind of boring, honestly. It's pretty much a lot of flats, but I have several highs, I guess, along the way too. One is being in the dark on the 3rd night, where it's a really long stretch of going from Wind Whistle aid stations to Road 46. And it's pretty flat. It's about 13 miles or so, I think. And that was a fun one for me because I realized that my lights, I didn't charge up my lights of one of the flashlight that I have, and so it was like getting dimmer, and then the other light was I was hoping originally to arrive to the sleep station by sunset, but that did not happen. So I was like racing myself to the aid station, and my feet feel amazing because like that dirt road was super soft, the softest dirt roads ever for the entire race. And so I have a lot of fun running that part of the course, even though it was dark. I was like running in the dark, didn't even turn on my lights for like several miles and just kind of like follow dim lights of like runners ahead of me and trying to chase that lights in the dark. So it was a lot of fun for me, just like running kind of aimlessly in a way, and hopefully I didn't get lost. But I think I did caught one runner running off the trail on the wrong direction, so I went up and caught up with that guy and then turned around. But it was like one of the it was one of the fun nights for me for sure, where I'm like just going, well, no lights and go and run and see how far I go and hopefully don't get lost.
Right.
But
It's obvious to me, I think probably everybody here, hearing you guys just talk about the race, that it's just an amazing experience. You guys are super excited, and it's fun for me to hear you guys talk about it. And we could talk about it. I want to go run with you guys and just keep talking about it. But the one thing, if anybody has any questions, I want to open up here in a second. But I know, Brian, you'd mentioned the chinchilla that you were talking to. I've never had any hallucinations when I've done runs, but any hallucination type incidents that you guys had or you want to share? Solomon, anything?
I don't really think I hallucinated at all. I think I got enough sleep for the most part, but I think one of the nights, I guess probably fourth nights, kind of going through the dark and shining some lights on the trees. I mean, it's more imagination than hallucinations. I mean, I kind of like noticed like all these trees, like if you actually pay attention at night, the shadows and the lights, they do form faces, kind of like I kind of mentioned that to the race director at the end of the race. It's like, yeah, they look like the Snow White, when she ran into the wood and got lost, and like all those like trees start coming to life and they're having faces and scary faces or not. That's what it looks like out there in the dark when you like shine your lights in it. So that's the only thing I've noticed. Other than that, it was nice at night and running with kangaroo rats for me instead of Chilla.
So there wasn't 50 branches on the trail that you jumped over thinking they were snakes at all?
Not me.
Yeah. Brian, anything else besides the
the chinchilla was definitely real, definitely more imagination. But I was starting to hallucinate earlier in that evening. For some reason, it got better. Usually it gets worse, but they can get, like, I've had them when I was pacing, actually, Tahoe 200, I got some weird, vicious ones because I had never been out like for that long. It was only like 100 of the miles, but of course you're taking like 40 hours to do them. So I was losing it, just pacing.
Right.
So it can get kind of weird, but yeah, for the most part, the last few races I've done, it's all more imaginative. So it's a lot more playful and fun. Like you'll see things and then you'll let your mind play with it instead of it becoming something. So you interact, yeah.
Any questions from the gallery here? Anybody want to jump in?
On the note of hallucinating, I was pacing him the last 40 miles after I crewed him pretty much the first 3 days, and the last night when he came in at mile 201, he slept for 4 hours, and I didn't sleep. So I was the first time that there was cell signal. So I was actually pushing all the social media updates. And I remember, Brian, you remember I was telling you that I was seeing on the ground as we were moving, it was a flat section, but I keep seeing these plastic trays keep rolling out like a conveyor belt, just keep over and over again. And then I finally told him, I go, dude, you need to pull out one of those. I have a couple espresso shot in my pack, so I took one, and about 15 minutes later, I was fine, good to go for until we finish, and then as soon as proceeds to my energy just kind of go down, and I took another one, so I was good for the rest of the day. But that definitely it's real. You definitely will feel it.
Well, listening.
And you should share, Brian, to tell him about the talking about the highs. So I ran the last 40 with him, and every time he sees somebody, I'll tell people that, oh, this guy's been running like 240 miles, and the first question most people ask is, how do you feel, right? So how do you feel? Do you remember what you tell them?
It's like that feeling of just like, it's not like I wanted to finish or open any presents, but I kept feeling like, damn it, it's Christmas morning and I'm going to go open my damn presents. You know, I just felt that way. I guess it's a gratitude feeling. I don't know what it was, but I do know what it was. I know what it felt like, but it was just like, yes, you know. So people ask me how I'm doing. I could have just said yes, but I said that instead.
You guys maybe touch on the hydration.
Start over, Scott.
Could you guys touch a little bit on the hydration? I know you touched more so on the food, but taking in fluids.
Well, I think the hydration, Scott, is really important out there because it's so dry. So I was carrying 3 liters of water, and I take a salt pill every hour or an electrolyte pill. But 3 liters, I was still having to ration. You know, I always like to finish, of course, or get to the aid station with some left over. But you do have to be careful. You know, you don't want to be gulping it down on the trail. So hydration is very important, and you have to go very long, you know, almost 20 miles or sometimes more than 20 miles without water. And remember, you're going like 3 miles an hour, maybe a little faster. So that's a lot of hours to have 3 liters in the hot sun. So you got to break it down. You can't be like, oh yeah, I can run 20 miles with a liter, you know, different.
Wow, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely like I have like a 2 liter bladder and I have like a couple of smaller flask that I have in my kind of belt. And so yeah, I think for the most part, like the first day, a lot of people complain about heat exhaustion actually because it was the hottest day and the longest section was actually 24.5 miles between a station where a lot of people complains about running out of water at that section because they put the water station at 4.5 miles and then you have a 20 miles still to go. And I heard majority of people just say they ran out of water too early and then they were suffering from that. I was lucky I wasn't one of those, but I don't sweat a lot, so that helps a little bit compared to a lot of other people. My body just reserve uh, a lot of water, conserve it a lot. So I was able to go through it pretty good for the most part. I usually, when I get to the aid station, I just drink a 300 milliliter of liquid. I usually go, instead of going soda, for this specific race, I was going for juices. I was like going for lemonade, going for apple juice when I got to the aid station. And I always eat some fruits there so I can rehydrate myself. At night, I get soups in addition to drinking some fluid. That's kind of helps me to rehydrate. I didn't do any electrolytes per se, but I do have strong legs that it's kind of like salt pills which I took every 3 hours. I would take like a 3 pills. Usually it's for about 50 pounds per pill. They would suggest you to take it. So they suggested to every 2 hours, I just do a 3 hours because I don't want to rely on it too much. But yeah, I just kind of rely on the aid station a lot of times. And for a lot of the race, especially once it cooled down at night, I was not drinking a lot of liquid myself. Actually, I end up just like drinking out of my 2 flasks, which is about 300 milliliter each. And I just drink out of those instead of drinking out of my bladder. So I would honestly drinking like, I don't even know how many ounce that would be, but yeah, 600 milliliter of like water in between aid stations. And I try to basically get a sip every 15 minutes or every mile. That's how I usually do it. Or like I will, and I tried not to drink anything. Kind of what I did with food is not to drink anything the first maybe half hour after the aid stations, just because like I just drink something, it's probably my body just need to absorb it slowly and then kind of like I do it either by time or distance, one way or the other, depending on how fast I'm going. But yeah, so.
Questions? I mentioned one earlier, and Bryan, I'll ask you this. Tahoe 200, Moab 240. Differences? Tell us about each one real quick. Thoughts on comparison?
Totally different. I love the both the fact that they're big loops. I don't know. I just have a thing for big loops. I guess some people like big butts. I like big loops. So yeah, that was cool. Tahoe more gain, so 40,000. So it's like 2 typical mountain hundreds. It's not. I would say Tahoe is definitely for us. I think anybody in this area, it's slightly easier. The exposure of Moab, the flat, how hard the surfaces are. You know how we always go into an ultra saying, my feet never swell. Well, they of course swole like crazy, especially after the last day coming down Porcupine Rim, hitting all that. We're just landing on slick rock the whole time. So so that was, yeah. Sorry, I got this little guy.
That's all right. And then Solomon, you're back-to-back weekend 100-milers compared to the Moab 240.
Oh boy. I think they're about the same, honestly. Well, with the back-to-back 100, honestly, like for me, this one feel, I don't know, easier, well, possibly easier, but overall it's about the same, I would think, of in terms of difficulty. The only difference is like this one, I can pace it out. Whereas that one, I have to finish it within a certain time for the first 100-mile. Whereas this one, I can kind of like stretch out my first 100 miles and then stretch out even more for the next 100-mile. So that's different. Like strategy wise, is different. But I personally like the 240 actually, for the fact that it's more of a strategic games for me. It's like you have to kind of plan and think, like when can I sleep, how long I spend time at the aid station, how fast I need to go between sections. Whereas the 100, I just go and do it and get it done with. So I think that's could be challenging for someone. For me, I love being critical thinking, and that's actually keep me in the game most of the time. And so that's why I don't usually have the low, because I'm always excited about how to calculate for when should I get to the next aid station, like, and then how should I finish this race and so forth. So that's always keep me motivated.
Awesome. And then if there's no more questions, I'd like to end it with each one of you. What's next on your calendar? And then show us your belt buckles when you're done. So, any other questions? Anybody? Bryan, what's next? What's on the calendar? Your thoughts, the future running?
Okay, I will be running in the future. So that's good. So far, so good. I will probably do this little course I designed. It's a 100-miler out on the coast. It's not a race. It's a FKT/fat ass. So I'll do that, I think February-ish. And then May 3rd, I have the Cocodona 250-miler in the northern Arizona mountain deserts. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm looking forward to that. And then hopefully maybe I can get something in the fall, but it might just be, I probably will have something in the fall. I'll probably take the summer off with the family, just train, and then do one more event in the fall, probably 100 or a 50.
And then I know you had it was a new event going up the coast, 300 something miles. Are they going to reschedule that, or are they just going to wait till next year?
Yeah, another year because of the fires this time.
Yeah. So, all right. Solomon, what's on the calendar?
Well, I don't have much going on the calendar set in stone yet. I still need to look at races to try and figure out what I want to do. I am on the process of doing the 50-stage challenge, which I try to do like basically a marathon longer distance in every single state across the US. And so far I'm like 12, 13, depending on how you want to count it. And so I'm definitely want to look for races that can fit my schedule and go to several states. I was hoping to do the Midwest Grand Slam next year, but since the races that I was going for this year didn't happen, except the Moab, so I may have to change the plan to do some of those next year, just so that I can get them out of the way. I will be doing UTMB. I got in last, supposedly for this year, but that's got canceled, so I'm gonna use my tickets for next year to automatically get in.
Wow.
That is my plan for next year. That's I know I'm going for, but probably several 100 miles. I've been like, when you like the first question you asked me about the high post race, like I've been itching for racing because especially I just got my PR for my 5K, I was like, oh, actually, I felt really great.
Mhm.
So, I'm definitely looking for races. It's just like is available right now. It's kind of hard to find, but definitely looking for more. Potentially doing Antelope Island in March, I guess. Probably do the 50-mile. I'm thinking of instead of the 100-mile there because it's gonna be a repeat twice of the same course. And I am one of those people who likes to not do repeat course. I like to do an out and back loop preferably, but out and back or point to point would be even better. So that's kind of like my choice to go to. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. And before we go, why don't you guys throw your buckles in the video there? And Brian, you were telling me everybody's buckle is different. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't know if we can see that.
Mine was, I'll put a picture on it. Mine was Sabrina Stanley, who's a real big pro in our sport. She's my coach's girlfriend. So she paced me a bunch and I had her pick out the buckle because you can choose at the end. I'm like, dude, like last Tahoe, it's like my wife was there. It's like, you choose. I can't choose. So she chose this one because it had the aspen leaves and we got to do the LaSalle section together.
Okay. Okay.
So that was sweeter.
You got yours there, Solomon?
Yeah. So you can see.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's what I have. I guess just the coloration, honestly, what I think is just like it looks cool. I like the rock formations on the buckle. So
I like that.
and
Well, again, we'll end it. No other questions, anybody? I know Michael Loeffler over there, he's been eating the whole time. I'm curious to see what he was been eating the whole hour.
I just ate a whole pizza.
That's what I
I
was
got
wondering.
a long run tomorrow, so I'm gassing up.
I was wondering.
Good deal. So, all right. Cheers, everybody. Hopefully I can run
Thanks
with
for
all you
hosting
guys
us,
soon.
Paul.
I've been a little busy on my end, but my weekends are starting to free up. So hopefully we can get out there and hit some trails. So,
In it.
yeah.
We're in.
All right. All right. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna
Thank you, everybody.
try and get the recording up. Solomon and Brian, I'll let you know if you want to share it with anybody. So
Thank you.
okay.
that's good.
Take care, Paul.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right.